Things Are Getting Strange, the X-Files Rewatch podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kim.
And I think the most news we've got is we watched some more horror films, really. But I don't think we've watched anything desperately new last time, have we?
No, we haven't really. There was nothing new out in the cinema this weekend. Though at least by the time this airs, Five Nights at Freddy's should be out.
Indeed. Will it be better than Willy's Wonderland?
No.
Well, there you are then. It possibly will be better than the Banana Splits.
Yeah, the Banana Splits is pretty trash, but Willy's Wonderland is trash but good fun.
Yes. And for those who have not seen this one or heard of it, this is the very familiar man has to spend a night in a closed-down children's restaurant with malicious animatronic sentient creatures. Only this time the main character is Nicolas Cage, who will not say a word the entire time. And the animatronics are, well, they're not very Fazbear, but they're kind of adjacent to him. It's pretty fun.
It's worth a watch.
It's worth a watch. I suppose then we'll have to get over to the thrilling conclusion of Gethsemane.
Are we counting it as the conclusion of Gethsemane when these two episodes are longer?
Well, okay, the next stage of Gethsemane.
It's more like Gethsemane's the prelude to Redux 1 and 2.
True. Okay, well, we'll get to Redux then, shall we?
But we're in season 5 now, anyway.
We're in season 5. Shiny season 5. Most notorious for having fewer episodes because there's a film stuck at the end of it.
True.
Which I did also see is interesting, and we can get to it more when we get to the end of the season, is this was meant to be it for the X-Files.
What, ending with the movie?
Yes. Well, actually, this was meant to be season 5 was meant to be the last TV series. They'd have the film coming off of it, and then they'd go to exclusively films. This is kind of like how Star Trek wound up going.
I see.
And then apparently 20th Century Fox said, no, we want more TV series out of you, and the whole thing fell apart. And that's why we got into season 6.
I did, before we begin, put this to Twitter about what people think of season 5 on the whole, and I got absolutely polarising responses.
Okay.
Varying from one person who told me this was the worst season since season 1, take that as you will, to another one who said it was absolutely flawless and they couldn't pick any holes in it whatsoever. So that's quite a wide playing board we've got this time.
Yeah, I'm probably going to lean more towards... somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle is usually the safe place to kind of swing to.
Well, I say this season has some really good episodes and some less good episodes.
You can say that about every season.
Exactly.
I have a soft spot for season 5 because this is where I came into the series.
Oh, true. But I think that's a conversation for next week because we can do that for the actual episode you started on.
You have the actual episode I started on next week, so we will talk about that then.
Ooh.
But, barring having read some of the young adult novellas, this was where I started watching.
Must have been a slightly weird position to start in, all things considered.
I'd still read bits and pieces. We didn't have the internet back then like we do today for me to just kind of binge on Wikipedia articles or something like that. But I remember reading quite a few of them. I definitely had X Marks the Spot, which was the pilot one. I had Squeeze. I had Humbug. I think I had Tiger, the Fearful Symmetry one. So I was familiar with the characters, the concepts, and some of the kind of better-known episodes.
Cool.
But yeah, it's an entirely different animal actually watching it.
Oh yeah, by far.
It was a random babysitter that allowed me to watch it as well, and then the rest is history.
Redux.
Interestingly, this was the first episode of The X-Files to start with a previously on segment.
Oh yeah, and it's actually in the copy we have.
Yeah. That was never done before Redux Part 1, which of course then summarised everything we've seen in Gethsemane.
Yeah, I was thinking, we didn't actually get that for Blessing Way, did we? Or Herrenvolk. Nope,
this was the first.
Okay.
That's a little bit of trivia for you before you get to your which randos are in this episode bit.
You're going to be disappointed on this front.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, okay, so let's do it. So, Redux, directed by R.W. Goodwin, written by Chris Carter, and first broadcast on the 2nd November 1997. The guest cast is all familiar faces, with one exception, but he's been in nothing I've ever seen.
Oh, that's a shame.
So, the exception is Quiet Willy, who is basically here because the grey-haired man was unavailable.
Mm.
And he is in 3 episodes. So, Redux 2, and one other. and then he's going to vanish off. But otherwise, yeah, we've got Cantermans in this episode, First Elder, Lone Gunman, John Critchgow, Margaret Scully, Bill Scully Jr., Father McCune, etc., etc. Skinner's become less of a guest star now. He's actually also starring.
Yeah, you've missed Section Chief Blevins, I think, off that list.
Oh, yeah, we haven't seen him in 94 episodes. Well, okay, no, he's in Gethsemane, but we haven't seen him in so long, and he's one of the weird guest stars, like, just basically fell off of him so fast. And, oh yeah, Scully was reporting to this guy. Was she? Oh yeah. We just thought she would report to Skinner. That's what she's been doing for ages. A distraught Mulder sits in his apartment, where he receives a phone call from Critchgow, who tells him that they may be listening. Mulder spots a small hole in his ceiling and rushes upstairs and bursts into the apartment above his, and ends up killing government employee Scott Ostelhoff. He goes to Scully's apartment to tell her about the incident, and tells her Ostelhoff had made numerous phone calls to the FBI. The Bureau looks into the situation and discovers Ostelhoff's body, however they believe it is the body of a suicidal Mulder, as indicated by the scenes in Gethsemane. Scully falsely identifies the body and is met by Skinner, who tells her that Section Chief Blevins is looking for her. She meets with Blevins and his panel and tells them about the previous incidents leading to Mulder's apparent suicide. Mulder breaks into the Department of Defense. Meanwhile, the Smoking Man searches Mulder's apartment, as seemingly mourning Mulder's death. He soon discovers the spy camera that was observing Mulder. Scully continues to do some research into Ostelhoff's records and comes to the conclusion that he was calling Skinner. Within the Bureau of Defense, Mulder finds a room containing numerous fake alien bodies and follows a tunnel to the Pentagon, where he finds the vast evidence room as seen in Pilot and the Erlenmeyer flask. Mulder ultimately tracks down a small metal vial that he believes may contain a cure to Scully's cancer. Scully, meanwhile, analyzes the ice core samples and compares it to samples taken from the cancer in her nose. She contrasts the two of them and discovers they are an exact match, meaning the same substances in both samples. Scully then proceeds to the FBI panel and indicates that Mulder was the victim of an elaborate conspiracy and that she was given a fatal disease by someone in the room. As she is about to present her evidence, her nose bleeds and she ends up collapsing. Mulder takes the vial to the Lone Gunman, who tell him it is not a cure, only deionized water.
Thank you.
This was not a fun episode to revisit, was it?
No.
I was going to say, I was reading some of the reviews on this, is that one of the things that got really tiring really fast, and I don't know how we put up with this back in 97, is the voiceovers. Remember your joke from Legacy of Kain, particularly Sorry for 2?
My joke, about narrating going through doorways.
Yeah, so what Raziel would say, or was it Kain? I think it was Raziel.
As I walked through this doorway, I recalled the last time that I had walked through a doorway such as this.
And that's basically what we get for this episode, because Mulder and Scully are either telling you what they've just done or what they're about to do in 2 seconds' time. And it's not something that you can't extrapolate from what they're doing. It's really overwhelming. And I don't know why they're doing it.
It removes any kind of subtext.
Any kind of subtlety at all.
Mm.
And it's just things like Mulder gets into what we call the Raiders Lost Ark room, the room from Pilot and Erlenmeyer Flask. The place we thought he was going to get to eventually. This was kind of inevitable. He would get into that room. And he would get all the answers he wanted. No. Because it's also like the classic comics. I told you I remembered a shot of Mulder bursts into that room and finds Samantha's body in a file cabinet. And yeah, we actually have that classic comic now, because bizarrely I remember the panel exactly right and managed to flip to it. But these are kind of things you anticipate him going into that room for, not wandering the entire length of the room, finding a file cabinet, and pulling out a card for Scully, and going and looking up, and it's, Mulder, there's a pickled alien in one of those boxes.
I feel that when we went to the Raiders' room, it should have been for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
Not Mulder wandering blind and not realising the kind of thing that he's found himself in. Literally, the truth is in there.
Yeah. This is something that, I don't know, the audience has been prepped for this since season 1. We knew we thought he was going to get in that room. We were right. We were completely wrong with what he was going to do it. And it's fairly safe to say he's never going back in there. There's no way he's going to get through all that security again. But anyway, one thing that the episode kind of glosses over and you feel should get Mulder censured or fired or something is he has killed someone. Again.
And it wasn't even really defensively this time. I mean, admittedly, the guy had a gun, but he was the one who burst into the room.
Yeah. But Mulder has shot someone point blank in the face and then blown his face off with a shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to have to be fine with that. Because every other person Mulder's killed has been self-defense to a point, hasn't it?
More so than this, yes.
Yeah. This was literally, he's pulled a shotgun and then... Well, I think it's not just... You could argue the first one, the whole he shot him when he pulled the shotgun on him as self-defense. Blowing his face off, on the other hand, that's not self-defense, that's desecrating a corpse.
Because, of course, this is our kind of turn from the last episode. This is the dead Mulder.
Yeah, this is a solution for how on earth there could be a misidentified body and Mulder not die. I did like the fact that Skinner almost pulls the legs out of the whole plan immediately. Because, like, we meet Scully coming out and said, oh, I identified the body. But I thought his face was gone. How did you do that? Oh, he was wearing the same clothes.
Yeah, Skin Man's not convinced at all.
The other thing is, we don't actually talk about the mechanics of it. Because it's all very neat and everything. Until you go, that guy, Mulder shot a guy in cold blood inside his apartment 1 floor up. And then shotgunned his face off. No one else in the building heard that. And we know from Anasazi, you can hear a gunshot from at least 1 corridor away. Because that woman shot her husband. Then Mulder has to have dragged that body, bleeding, down to his apartment to put in the position for the police to find it. Before the police show up because of the report of a gunshot.
Yeah, maybe someone's drugged the water again and just everyone's asleep.
It could be.
I will note as well that from the reviews at the time, we said last time the fact that a lot of papers, including the New York Post and things like that, ran "Is Mulder dead?" sort of comic strips and articles. Is the fact that this lasted all of about 5 minutes, because then they announced, yep, we're making a movie.
I knew it was really soon. I knew there was not enough time.
Yeah, it wasn't right away, but it was really soon. So this kind of resolution of the cliffhanger was branded the X-Files' weakest cliffhanger. Because, you knew with a movie on the way, there was no way in hell that Mulder was actually dead and we were going to recast.
Yeah, Anasazi had more of a thing going for it. Although I will say that Anasazi... As much as people say that about Redux, Anasazi has the weaker cliffhanger resolution, given that it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, this one's not satisfying, but at least it's kind of logical.
You understand how it happened. Yeah, Mulder and Scully were very busy in a few hours in the middle of the night. And the other hilarious thing, I think, is we made a comment a while back about Mulder's apartment being bugged. And yeah, it is, again, how many bugs are in Mulder's apartment at any one time?
True. The thing I thought was interesting about the opening, and I will give it something in the episode's credit, is the fact that although Mulder didn't kill himself, he was suicidal.
He was, and I think you made the point of that feels out of character.
It's totally out of character for him, but at least it wasn't an entire fake out. Mulder was totally preparing to kill himself. It was Krishkow's phone call right at the start that kind of stopped him and made him realise that he was being watched.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's also a bit later on, though, where they show a picture of Krishkow to Scully, and it looks like it's taken from the surveillance camera. And you think that would sort of start leading down the path to who the traitorous person is, and how it's unlikely to be Skinner, given that photo was shown to her by Blevins.
True.
But that's too easy, apparently. Holly is still employed at the FBI.
Despite having kicked the crap out of Skinner previously when we last saw her, I think.
But it's great. I mean, I'd completely forgotten she got this one other cameo, and it's really nice to see her.
It looks like she's not Skinner's secretary anymore.
Well, she wasn't. No, she was an information person. She was never his secretary.
Oh, right.
I think that's a mistake I kept making. But no, she works in whatever room Patrick Modell got into. She's like some
Robert Modell.
She's like some information clerk or something, or was. Now she's in the switchboard. But it's Scully's thing of, okay, so this was... I don't understand how this mystery works. So they've got Osselhoff, who's been spying on Mulder, has been calling into the FBI switchboard. You've worked in an office, I've worked in an office. This is a very kind of archaic thing you used to get, because I remember when my mother used to ring my dad at work, you just have to call the switchboard, and they'd pass you through to the relevant line. Admittedly, I don't know when this was developed, but the automatic kind of redirection is more of a thing these days, because you can do a direct line from outside the office calling into someone, can't you?
I've got to admit, where I work, it can go both ways.
Okay.
Is we all have direct numbers if somebody knows our direct number. Alternatively, you can call our reception, where much like this, a person can patch you through to the right extension.
Yeah.
So either way, it works.
Fair enough. Where I get confused is Holly looks up the times that these calls are made and says, okay, yeah, they were transferred to an executive level extension.
But she can't say which one.
She can't say which one, and apparently it's everyone in the executive class. She said, how does your phone system work given you've got to transfer it to an exact number, otherwise that's madness.
Well, we did look this up right back at the start when we were trying to determine how senior Skinner was, and he is kind of like lower management on that basis, so that must be a huge amount of people if it's anyone at Skinner's level and higher.
Exactly. And it's just, Scully then just says, oh, is Skinner on this level? And say, yes. So it's got to be him. There's loads of other people's skill. Scully, what are you doing? This is the man who you asked for help and got beaten up by X, and got the answers you wanted, and you still don't trust him.
Yeah, it was interestingly one of the reviews I looked at. A lot of the reviews I look back on when I'm doing this come from a book called Wanting to Believe, which is by Robert Shearman and Lars Pearson, because I feel that they are, kind of fair in their judgments of things.
Okay.
But one of the things they looked at for this episode, which they gave 1 out of 5 for the record, specifically for Redux Part 1, they were more...
People are more keen.
More keen on the second half. But one of the things they really criticised was the fact that they tried to pin Skinner as the traitor.
Yeah, again.
Because they kind of noted that there's no way in hell, basically, that he is going to be the antagonist. But the fact that, as we previously noted, we haven't seen Blevins in over 90 episodes, so it's equally as unsatisfactory that Blevins turns out to be our traitor.
Yeah. I mean, it's... Yeah, he's not been in it enough for it to not be... We're bringing him in for this little arc, and then we're going to just remove him again.
Yeah. It's kind of, if you wanted to pull that, it would have been more satisfying if it was Skinner, to be honest, because you need a character that's been in a position of trust from the beginning, turning out to be our Judas in our Gethsemane kind of analogy.
Yeah, and also playing a really long con, given we've seen so many opportunities where he could have betrayed them and hasn't. Though he has been building to something like this, that would have been more of a satisfying payoff. Do we consider Mulder supernaturally lucky, though, do you reckon?
Well, Mulder's got plot armor.
He does, but what I mean is, so Oswald Hoff, the person who's been spying on him for the Department of Defense, has better security clearance than Kritschgau. So when Mulder decides, I'm going to go see what's been going on in this place, and can get through all the doors that Kritschgau can't. So there is that weird disconnect, isn't it, where Kritschgau is saying, yes, this is what all the people are doing. I haven't seen any of it, but I know this is what they're doing to you. And Oswald can actually go and wander around in the secure area. But Mulder goes through a secure door and then gets trapped in a corridor by those 2 military guys. And trying every door, gives up and eventually picks the lock of one of them. And the room he goes into is the one with all the fake alien bodies in it. What were the chances?
Well, the chances are pretty good because that's how these kind of plots work.
I know. And I do kind of like that you've got the room of fake alien bodies next to the women biological hazard experiments that are going on one room over.
Yeah, sure.
They're very compact.
Why don't we have all of our fakeness in a row?
Yeah. And where's the fake? Let's have the face ice core samples. Why is there no big vat of ice somewhere that we can have?
I can tell you kind of skip past it, but one of the things that this episode was most heavily criticised for was how easily Mulder gets into the Department of Defense. Because, as you see when he takes the ID card from Ostenhoff, it's a photo ID.
Yes, and no one looks at it.
Yep, but that's exactly why they are, because they're, particularly military sites like this in America, are so strict that it's not just a kind of case of scanning your ID or something like that. There is someone on the door who is visibly checking these, like passport control at all times.
It makes sense.
Because that's why they're photo IDs.
Yes.
So nobody can do what Mulder's done and snuck into the building. But again, because Mulder has plot armor, he just flaunts his way straight through and nobody contests him.
Well, I think it's hilarious as well, because I think I said when we were watching it is, this is the Department of Defense who has put someone in the apartment above you to watch you for God knows how long, and you're just wandering through the atrium. No one's even looking at you. And Kritschgau runs up to him, and you'd think someone would say, hey, Kritschgau's talking to you. Wait a minute, is that Mulder? That guy we've been spying on for 4 years now?
Well, they even say when someone notifies Cancerman that Ostenhoff's card's been used to access something. He says, oh, was it actually Ostenhoff himself? And the guy says, no, we've got no idea. It's like, you've got nothing on file to tell you what this guy looks like?
Nope.
In the Pentagon?
To be fair, though, the Department of Defense side rather than the Pentagon side, that does mean that apparently they are sufficiently close to each other that why don't you just merge the two buildings together? Come on.
Well, Mulder kind of goes through that passageway and winds up in the Pentagon because we know that the Raiders' room is in the Pentagon.
Yeah. But there's only so long that corridor can be before you get into implausibility again, isn't there?
Mm. They could be close together, I don't know. They're both in Washington.
They are both in Washington. I do not know where the Pentagon is in relation to Washington, D.C. itself, or that DoD projects place, wherever it was.
I've got to admit, I know so little about the Pentagon because I only ever see it in, like, sci-fi movies.
Yeah, I think all I know really about it is that it is basically a military city, and there are, like, fast food places in it.
Oh, really?
I can't remember if it might be KFC, don't quote me on this, it might be KFC or it might be Burger King. There is a franchise eatery inside the Pentagon.
To be fair, there's one inside Lloyd's of London, so...
Yeah, so... It feels kind of madness, but yeah. If Critchkow had given this explanation of why the UFO faking had been done in Gethsemane, it might have made it land a bit better. Because he actually does get to explain why any of this has been done. Why all the fake UFO stuff, which is kind of the bit that was missing from Gethsemane.
It's a really good speech, where credit's due, Critchkow's kind of speech about this as well.
It makes sense, and you can it kind of chimes with how a lot of Western industry seems to work, of we have to keep things ticking over. War's the best way to do this, and if we don't have an enemy, we'll invent one.
But it's also kind of tying things together. I mean, as we said last episode, you don't believe for a second that what Critchkow's saying is right because we've seen too much.
Yeah.
But you're kind of having this idea of what we believe are alien abductees are actually women who have been taken essentially for testing for germ warfare.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, all right, you've got something that's in an air of believability that seems to be that kind of believable level of insidiousness that the US government might have.
Absolutely. I think one of the oddest parts of it, and I don't know if that's someone not paying attention, is the fact Roswell gets mentioned here, and that Roswell previously only really came up as part of Deep Throat, where Mulder has implausibly that picture of the ship before the crash at Roswell.
Yeah.
Something I'm not aware of anyone having even postulated that anyone has something like this. This is not something that's a relic of the actual UFO lore or anything.
I think the closest you've got is that picture of the men in suits holding up bits of shrapnel.
Yeah, but pre-crash, no one has of that photo.
No.
But anyway, but this one's postulating that Roswell happened and was, well, as in the most likely real one of it's a misattributed piece of debris for something else. Of course, where the conspiracy comes into it with films like the film Roswell is that the material they recovered initially is not the stuff used in that photo opportunity.
Mm.
Then the conspiracy rabbit hole will open up and threaten to consume us as always. Because where does it all start? But it's interesting though that Roswell is kind of erred on the side of it implies it's not a hoax so much as a mistake, but that mistake was noted, and that's what's led to the building up of UFOs as the cover story.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure where I was going with that, but
I also liked, as part of Critchkow's little speech, the fact that Mulder kind of points out the fact that if Scully had been there, she'd have been able to see through this hoax. And Critchkow responds with kind of like, yeah, that's why we've done it now, is they waited till this precise moment when Scully would be too sick to disprove anything for you.
Yeah. At the same time, though, they've got so many alien bodies in that room, which apparently are shelf-stable. Because you think you'd keep them in ice or something, wouldn't you?
We know that they're biological to a degree because they have to be from the autopsy.
Yeah.
Last one.
But so you'd think you'd freeze them, not just have them on stretchers.
You don't know how cold it was in there.
Mulder didn't seem to have foggy breath or anything.
No, that's true.
What I'm kind of getting at is, though, that while Mulder may fully believe that Scully can see through this, you'd think there'd be some other people who do autopsies who say, hang on, there's something wrong with this. And that's why they have so many of the things, because the implication in Gethsemane, at least, was the fact that you were allowed to go so far with your investigations. And then it would be snatched away before you could get definitive proof, like carbon dating.
Mm.
Speaking of Scully, though, hey, the ice core sample guy didn't die. The scientist guy who was analysing the ice core samples.
Oh, that guy.
That guy.
I was thinking you meant Orlinsky, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about him.
No,
No,
he's dead.
no, the ice core guy is alive.
He just walked out the
To be
plot.
fair,
briefly.
it would have seemed out of character for Krishkow to kill him.
True, but he is very Men in Blackish, isn't he?
Yeah, true.
But okay, so ice core sample guy, I don't think he gets a name.
He must have a name.
He must, well, yeah, you might not have said on the screen again. But he points out the Chimera cell thing in the ice, or started growing the Chimera cells, which it does feel like this is one of those bits where Scully kind of veers off from the interesting part, because I know what she ends up doing, but we've started to grow the Chimera plant-animal hybridized cell, which we don't know what it is.
And you've discovered that when you kind of start messing with it, it'll start undergoing division.
Yeah, and so it's going to develop into something. And we're not going to get into what that is. We're going to just shove that off to the side, and instead we're going to, and I know you've made sense of this for me, it still feels, taking a complete face value, an absurd chain of logic.
You're not entirely correct there. They do find out it's developing into a virus.
Oh, true.
Which is the key part.
But we don't get any more than that, though, do we?
No. Other than the fact that it matches the virus that has caused Scully's cancer.
Yeah. And I can see, you have, there is a logic that you explained to me of how this connection would happen. On face value, though, it does feel very random we found this ice core sample taken from Canada by the people who may have given me my cancer. Just so happens to have the same biological material as the cancer I have.
For the record, my logic in this, and I'm not sure if this is going for, this is how I have made sense of it, is the fact that Scully has been told that the government has given her cancer. Many cancers are caused by viruses, like the HPV virus. So when Scully has seen this kind of, I use the term in inverted commas, alien cell that has developed into a virus when they've started kind of playing around with it, she's kind of had this thought that this is the same kind of virus that gave her cancer, and she's absolutely correct in that. And
that's completely logical. It just feels like that could easily come up with, yep, they're not related at all. Because why would we put this in our ice core sample?
Oh, that I can't explain, no. But I believe that's the logic for Scully looking into this.
Unless it's part of the cells that the fake alien corpse has that have become unmoored and sort of going to the ice core sample, and that's fine. I mean, we're still going to go off. The US government has these weird chimera cells that have been suppressed from all of the science, and where did they find them?
I think we noted last time as well is this isn't what a biological chimera is.
No. This is someone who was flicking through a biology textbook and came to some conclusions. One thing I do want to sort of ding Scully a bit for bad science, though.
Oh, Scully and bad science. That hardly ever happens.
No. It's Scully and bad doctoring.
Bad doctoring is more of a problem, yeah.
So she wants to compare her cancer cells with the chimera cells.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to do something called a southern blot.
Yeah.
And she needs it done by tonight. And the ice core sample guy says, not possible. And this isn't one of those, you couldn't get someone else to do it for you in that time frame because they're busy, or this would be possible if you paid extra money for this. This isn't something Scully's going to do herself. So when the guy says it's not possible, I'm going to interpret that as, you literally can't do it in this time frame.
Can you not?
I don't know, but she does.
Fair enough.
That's why he says you can't do it in that time frame. And she just says, I have to do it, and just does. With apparently minutes to spare.
I remember doing an experiment in high school where you separate out your DNA from a cell sample. And, that's fairly quick.
Yeah, I think it's that other bit where she does the acetone thing with the two black little globs, which then prove that they're the same chromosome. I'm not entirely sure what she's actually got there. I do like a little bit of... I know what they're getting at with that sheet of acetone with two black blobs, because you see it on all the DNA tests and everything when they compare them with each other. But when she's getting out to present to the committee, can you imagine passing that on to people and them going, huh?
Especially when you've got kind of no scientific background of what this is. It's like there are two little black dashes on this piece of acetate.
Yeah, this is the appendix at the back saying, this proves what I'm saying. You write a formal report saying what those two black blobs mean.
Yeah.
Because as it is, it's meaningless. Scully versus Skinner's quite fun, even though Scully is just really not listening to what Skinner's saying.
I do like the bit where she kind of comes out of the room and realises that Skinner's kind of stalking her.
Yeah. But when he's saying, look, I have a report on my desk that says that's not Mulder in his apartment. I'm making sure no one else can see it. Please tell me what you're doing. And Scully's saying, no, you're definitely the rat.
I do feel, and Scully has really latched on, we can't trust Skinner out of virtually nowhere after largely trusting Skinner for 4 seasons.
Yeah.
But has Skinner not proven himself by now?
You think, again, I go back to whenever X beat him up.
Yeah.
That must have been Endgame. I think that's Endgame, isn't it?
Yeah. It was around that time.
Yeah. I'd say if no other encounter in your history with Skinner proves anything, he literally beat someone up when you asked him to go outside official channels. And, if X said, I'm not dealing with you, and Skinner beat him up for you. Like, this should be proof.
There was Paperclip as well, where he was kind of helping them to the end, even though there were, people out to kill them.
Exactly. He has done some things over the years, and his allegiance definitely was in question at various points, but he has gone to bat for you so many times. But no, that doesn't matter.
And on a personal level, he clearly cares for you.
Yes.
It's even most recently, admittedly, I don't know if Scully knows, but he admitted to Mulder the fact that he has made a deal with the Cancer Man to try and save Scully's life.
It's not clear if Mulder has passed that on.
No, it's unclear if Scully knows that, but Mulder certainly does.
Well, we can take that as why Mulder doesn't fall into that trap, but I think that's more of a discussion for Redux Part 2.
Yeah.
To round off Redux Part 1, I think we will have to talk about Cancer Man, who's got some very interesting scenes in this one, I feel.
Yeah, I like Cancer Man's development in this episode, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things going on, because there's the stuff he's saying to people, and there's how he acts in private, which is kind of different. Because he's actually upset when he goes to Mulder's apartment. He looks distinctly depressed and upset, and
well, like you said, it's like he's mourning him.
yeah, he's mourning the loss of Mulder, and it's not because he goes to see First Elder shortly afterwards, after he discovers the spy camera, and how he talks then is in terms of Mulder as a playing piece, as a pawn he can manipulate. But that's not how he's acting in Mulder's apartment. There's a personal connection there. He likes Mulder, or he wants Mulder to do something in the future.
I actually think that some of his personal feelings come out in the conversation with First Elder as well.
True.
During that scene, First Elder always speaks about Mulder in past tense, but Cancer Man still talks about him in present tense.
True. Well, I saw it as Cancer Man is ostensibly trying to pass this off as a thing they can use for the syndicate and the conspiracy, and he's letting his personal stuff slip in, but on the face of it, he's trying to be professional, like normal.
But he also doesn't entirely believe that Mulder's dead.
No, it's as soon as he sees that spy camera, he's not convinced anymore.
He even tells First Elder, I still won't underestimate him.
Yeah, which is a nice touch. And it's the change in attitude with how depressed he seemed in Mulder's apartment to how chipper he is with First Elder.
Mm.
And it's interesting, of course, that given demons, we have some ambiguous connection between Cancer Man and Samantha. But the fact he's showing a photo of Mulder and Samantha when he's actually at his sort of most downbeat.
I also thought the scene with First Elder is kind of interesting, because it's clear that the syndicate on the whole is starting to cut its ties with the Cancer Man.
Yes. On the one hand, you kind of want to say, this has taken a bit long, and the audience hasn't got the inciting incident. Like, if this came after, not so much Terma, when was the last time he really annoyed them?
It was when he lied about the tape.
Yeah, so if this was...
So it was whichever one Krajik came back in, that was Piper Maru, wasn't it?
Yeah. You kind of want to say this should have followed closer to that two-parter, given that's really when they started to mistrust him. And I think even Blessing by Your Paperclip to a point when Mulder directly contradicted what he told Well-Manicured Man.
Mm.
This has felt inevitable, but it feels very detached from the inciting incidents. And if there's something else he's done recently that's annoyed them, we're not privy to it, which is not great.
I think with Cancer Man, though, there is an element of panic now, because he's realised the fact that they're starting to cut him out of the loop, and if they entirely cut him out of the loop, they're going to kill him.
Yes.
Because he kind of is quite pleading when he says, oh, you will not cut me out, you need my expertise, and all the rest of it. It's desperation now.
Yeah.
Because people who are kind of removed from the syndicate are removed from life, usually.
Yes. As much as we complained about Star Wars and pop culture last time, especially with demons, there is a sense to this scene which I don't like it occur to me, but I can't unsee it now I've come to the conclusion. And it's not impossible that Chris Carter, and it is entirely Chris Carter who did these ones.
Is it I created Mulder?
It's partly that. It's that it's the moment he confronts First Elder, is you've got First Elder is the Emperor, Cancer Man is Darth Vader, and Mulder is Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And very much a case of First Elder will influence Mulder directly if he needs to. And Cancer Man will be cut out the loop if he becomes too much of a problem.
Mm.
It's very hard not to see Return of the Jedi in this.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Which I hate, because we need to stop doing this kind of thing. I would say it's a bit of a shame that the Lone Gunmen are not in this episode much.
Yeah, you get your obligatory 15 seconds of them at the end.
It's kind of frustrating because you see their names come up on the guest star list and you go, yay, Lone Gunmen! Where are they? Oh, 30 seconds before the end, here they are.
As much as I'd love to see them, I'm not sure why Mulder went to them with his sample either, because...
What are they going to do?
He finds out more things about it in the next episode which are more Lone Gunman relevant.
Yeah.
But in this one, if you were taking like a chemical sample to someone, which Mulder believes is a cure for cancer, surely you'd take it to whoever's Pendrill's now replacement or someone like that in the lab.
True. Well, I think we can get this in Redux Part 2, but we have that problem of the logic would be, as far as I can see, is he's technically dead at this point. So he has to go to people he can trust.
So he can't waltz into the FBI, that makes sense.
Yeah. Redux Part 2.
However, the Lone Gunmen aren't those kind of scientists, they're computer geeks.
Well,
you need a chemist for this.
You know as well as I do that if you're a scientist, you're an all-things scientist at all times. They have done... No, to be fair to them, in one breath, they did some form of DNA and chemical analysis. So it's not entirely outside the established wheelhouse. I will take your point, though, that these are not the people we need to take this to if this is a cure for cancer. This needs to go to a medical professional.
It needs to go to some kind of virologist or something like that.
Someone who can understand what it is.
So basically Scully.
Yeah. And of course we get the shock realization that all the thing contains is deionized water.
Which is interspersed with Scully having her dramatic moment at the panel where she's about to name Skinner as the traitor and conveniently passes out.
She just managed to accuse Skinner to his face before she collapses, but yeah.
It's like in a kind of mystery where someone's about to name the killer and then they get poisoned. It's that kind of effect to it.
I can't help but I'm going to allude back to Futurama, the one where Leela becomes more impulsive.
Where they keep turning out the lights.
Yeah, in the accusing parlour.
Yeah.
Can you turn the lights on the way out? Sure. Is that my torso? It is. It is my torso.
Yeah, it's that sort of idea, but of course you have Scully kind of having a near-fatal nosebleed and passing out, and that's basically where our episode ends.
Yeah, and I think I want you to bring up the problem with the nosebleed in just a second when we move on to Redux Part 2, because it's a doozy of a weird problem.
Well, it's all in her head. No, I'm going to stick with my original argument then.
We'll come back to
that.
But
yeah, I'll get to that in a minute.
Do we have anything else for Redux Part 1?
No, I think you've covered everything for this one.
Okay.
Do you have any new actors for Part 2?
I don't. Well, Wikipedia mashed both cast lists together.
Ah, I see.
So again, Quiet Willie is the only notable new person in this list, and he's not done much, and he's not even credited for this role, which is really bad. It's also, the actor's name is Willie, so it feels like Quiet Willie is... Someone was really annoyed they couldn't get Grey-Haired Man in to do this.
Oh, bless.
Because Grey-Haired Man would have fit a lot more cleanly with the conspiracy up to this point, and not just being a random guy who's watching dressage with First Elder, sorry. Well, he watches a Senate hearing on cloning. Which I don't think, we didn't mention that, but he's watching a Senate hearing on cloning for some reason.
Mm.
And Skinner gets into the background of some of these shots for some reason. It's really actually kind of strange, ultimately.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so Redux Part 2, directed by Kim Manners, written by Chris Carter, first broadcast on the 9th of November 1997. As noted, no new guest stars, so got to give us Redux Part 2.
On learning that Scully has collapsed, Mulder arrives at the hospital where she's being treated. Before he can make any contact with her, he is detained by Skinner and 2 other FBI agents. Mulder is then brought before Blevins and another senior agent who demand information on why Scully lied about his death. Once this meeting has concluded, Mulder speaks with Skinner and explains that a traitor in the FBI gave Scully her cancer. In the meantime, we see the cancer man trying to convince First Elder that Mulder will join their side easily, so long as he's given a good reason to do so. Mulder meets with Scully as she lies in her hospital bed, critically ill and slowly succumbing to the cancer. He tells her that he plans to reveal the conspiracy to the public. He also has a brief altercation with Scully's brother, Bill Jr., who is not impressed by Mulder and still just wants Scully to die with dignity. As Mulder leaves the hospital, he meets with the cigarette-smoking man. He claims that Mulder already has the means to cure Scully, which is inside the vial of deionized water. As Mulder returns to the lone gunman to analyse this further, he discovers that the water contained a small chip, not unlike the one that was previously removed from Scully's neck. In the meantime, Krischgau goes before the FBI panel and denies all knowledge of Ostenhoff's murder. He also reveals that his son, who was ill with Gulf War syndrome and his reason for previously helping Mulder, has died earlier that morning. He advises that he works not only for the Defense Department, but also for a congressional lobbying firm known as Rausch. Mulder takes the chip to Scully and her doctor, explaining that he believes that if it's put back in her neck it will cure her. Scully's family is incredibly sceptical, especially Bill. However, Scully decides that there's nothing to lose and goes ahead of having the chip reinserted into her neck. Cancer Man arranges a meeting with Mulder at a nearby diner. It's there that Mulder meets with his sister Samantha, who calls Cancer Man her father. Samantha claims not to remember anything about her abduction and is reluctant to stay or tell Mulder where he can find her. The following day, Cancer Man approaches Mulder again. He offers him the truth if he quits the FBI and comes working for him, citing the fact that he has helped him find his sister and save Scully as evidence of his honesty. Mulder refuses, pointing out Cancer Man has actually given him nothing. Mulder then meets with Blevins, who claims he has evidence that Skinner was withholding information concerning Ostenhoff's death. He tells Mulder he can help him, but only if he names Skinner as the traitor within the FBI. That night, Mulder meets with Scully and tells her he's going to make a deal with the cigarette-smoking man, but not until after his meeting with Blevins. Despite Scully's pleas, he refuses to betray Skinner. As Mulder appears before the FBI panel, we see an armed Quiet Willie is following the cigarette-smoking man. Mulder tells the panel of the conspiracy against him and Scully. He is questioned by both Blevins and the other senior agent with increasing aggression about whether or not he killed Ostenhoff. However, Mulder instead names Blevins as the traitor. We see the Cancer Man looking at a picture of a young Mulder when he is shot by Quiet Willie. Blevins is then killed by the other senior agent in his office, who stages it to look like a suicide. Skinner meets with Mulder at the hospital and says that the smoking man is clearly dead due to the amount of blood found at the scene. However, his body has not been found. Mulder admits that he didn't really know that Blevins was the traitor, but just guessed. And Skinner reveals that they were indeed onto him. Blevins was also on the payroll for the mysterious Rausch. Mulder then tells Skinner that Scully's cancer has gone into remission. However, it is left ambiguous for the viewer whether or not it was the chip, her treatment, or just merely divine intervention for the reason why she was suddenly cured.
Thank you. So many things. One is, you'd think God ought to get her up on her feet, given she's going to be protecting the second coming at some point. But
I like the fact that her return of her faith could just be the reason for this, to be honest.
True. Although I think what you said at the time is, they've implanted the chip, it's been 24 hours and it's not done anything. Give it a little bit longer.
I think it's more her aggressive treatment, because her doctor does start her on this kind of slightly controversial treatment program, and Scully kind of gives it all of an hour before she says, oh, there's no change. It's like, bit more time.
Yeah. No,
I think cancer normally takes multiple treatments and not just one shot.
you're a doctor, Scully. We know you're not that kind of doctor, but you're meant to know these things. One thing your synopsis made clear to me is, how are Mulder and Scully not fired over these two episodes? Because Mulder has literally killed a man. Scully has lied under oath. I'm pretty sure, even in the most extenuating circumstances, that's a thank you for your service, please go away.
Please leave your badge and your gun.
Yeah. You're going to escape jail, but you're not working here anymore.
To be honest, how has Mulder still got a job by this point anyway?
I don't know either. Mulder should have been fired so long ago, but Scully literally is on record lying. And as much as you'd hope there's the compassion of, oh, she suffered from cancer at the time, that's not how employers work. Particularly not scary people like the FBI.
Yeah, true.
You have crossed us, you have lied to us, goodbye. Yeah, that'll be fine. One thing, to flash back to season 4 a second, and the episode Paper Hearts. So, As you might remember, one of my major complaints about Paper Hearts was placement in the series. I felt it was too late to do this. And this should have been like a season 1 kind of thing. I can say at the time, obviously, because we hadn't got to this episode, is I also felt similarly it should slot to Series 5, because it fits much nicer of Mulder doesn't believe in aliens, his brain is unraveling things and trying to come up with a different explanation of how Samantha could have vanished all those years ago and him have no memory of it, or have this bizarre explanation. What I had forgotten was Mulder meets Samantha as an adult, and what is this scene? This is one of the most bizarre sections of the X-Files I've ever seen now. Because what is going on?
True. Yeah, I gotta admit, I can't really argue with that.
It's like in your synopsis, you say that Samantha doesn't remember what happened with the abduction. It's a case of, no, pause that a second, let's rewind a bit. Why was she abducted? Can we get back to what happened there? Because, well, you've just let this slide past of, was she taken by aliens? Was she taken by the government? Who did it? Why was it done? Mulder, you've left a lot on the table here. And you've just gone with, yeah, it's my sister. So is this it? Is Samantha now resolved? She's just somewhere in Washington, apparently.
And she has a husband and kids now.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty safe to say, looking at the guest list, is that this actress isn't coming back, so is this it? Is this the end of the plotline that's kept Mulder going for 4 seasons?
Weird. I know Mulder's having his crisis of faith now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's seen other Samanthas before and other clones and other women that look just like this woman.
Yeah.
Why is this one any different?
Exactly. I mean, Colony in Endgame Mulder. This alien-human hybrid infiltrated your family, convinced everyone, then you met 5 of her who all died. Come on, you do not know this is not another one. And again, why were you taking Samantha? Can you explain that a bit? Just, something, maybe?
I do think it's interesting, the swing in the Cancer Man, and feeding into this growing belief that the fan base had at the time, and what is becoming more clear is that Cancer Man might be Mulder's father, is the kind of keenness of Cancer Man to recruit him rather than kill him.
Yes, this comes back really frustratingly to my whole Star Wars thing again. This is Darth Vader Empire Strikes Back era of how he's treating Luke Skywalker, is here how he treats Mulder in this.
Because, of course, the First Elder is really upset that the Cancer Man let him escape. This is the final straw that gets Cancer Man shot. But Cancer Man's still, no. Mulder needs help. Now we can bring him into our fold.
If he can be turned, he'd be a powerful ally.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting, though, that as much as we've now put Mulder onto the whole aliens aren't true bent, with everything that was been set up.
Yeah.
When he says this to Cancer Man, that Critchgall explained that, it's all been fake, Cancer Man immediately comes back with, oh, is that what you believe? I can show you the truth. It's like, we're not meant to trust Cancer Man at all, even though he has just brought Mulder's sister back from wherever she's been.
And might have cured Scully.
It's one of those, if you expect us to believe that everything's fake, you can't really have Cancer Man say, oh, there's an even deeper truth, which turns out what you believed first was actually true, and Critchgall just spread you lies. Despite the fact that Critchgall should then have access to the fake alien bodies, and Mulder not have access to the other bit that would then prove that aliens are real, and it's a little bit frustrating. But yes, I do agree, you can see, this is, as you said, this is the building up of Cancer Man as Mulder's father. It's how he's acting around him. There's been some level of distance he's maintained, but he thinks they're at a point when he can reduce it down and bring Mulder into the fold. And that maybe this is something he's been waiting for a long time. Is it father and son versus the world?
True. I can't really argue with that.
I mean, it's interesting that it's not surprised he gets shot. It's interesting that he stole Mulder's photo before he got shot. It does kind of make you wish that we could have a series of the X-Files where Mulder did take Cancer Man's offer and got to see, I don't know, something like Men in Black with he takes him behind the facade of something. You just see the kind of airport arrival lounge of aliens coming onto Earth or something, and their room of the high technology and everything.
I think that would reveal too much for the X-Files.
Well, I think it would, but kind of seems like what they're hinting at there, isn't it?
Yeah, true. But also, we've got a difference in Mulder here, is that at one time Mulder kind of put stock in he'd do anything to get the truth.
Mm.
This is probably the closest he's got.
Yeah. Although I think we can hark back to you can't trust Gethsemane further than you can throw him. And he shouldn't believe this is Samantha for a few reasons. At the same time, though, I don't think there's any indication he doesn't believe it's Samantha.
No, he certainly behaves like he thinks it's Samantha.
And just to go back to that as well, though, Mulder the psychologist. Mulder, really good at reading people. This woman has just been introduced to him and talks about her father, the cancer man, and her husband and her children. And he's saying, that man's lied to you. You not think this might not work, Mulder? Mom's alive? Oh, no, I can't go and see her. Yeah, Mulder, do you remember the last time Samantha went home to meet mother? Do you remember how badly that wound up?
For everyone.
For everyone. And your father was still alive at the time, and he was very angry, although not angry in the way that made sense, because we noted that at the time his reaction was a bit weird. Almost like he knew it couldn't possibly be her. I do as well have to wonder why Cancerman decided to have them meet in this random diner in the middle of nowhere.
To be fair, it's neutral ground. If we are buying for a second that this is the real Samantha, she's very, very anxious.
She is. It's interesting. It is an interesting, different characterization to how she was in Colony Endgame.
Mm.
It's not someone who seems to know anything. But yeah, I think we need to keep an eye on if Samantha ever comes up again.
Yeah.
Are the lone gunmen here out of an obligation, do you reckon? Is this fan service?
Well, they find the chip.
Well, no, Mulder finds the chip when he sort of bangs the vial. But it's one of these... The lone gunmen are fan favourites, but they're in both episodes for like 30 seconds apiece.
Yeah, it's true. They don't really contribute much.
No, and also you raised a really good point of, in one breath, Frohickey got dressed up in a tux with some flowers.
Oh yes, that really annoys me, is the fact that Frohickey is a horn dog and he's, perverted and lecherous, but he does care for Scully. Is when she was in a coma, he got dressed up, he came to visit her because he was generally worried about her and upset that she was unwell. Doesn't go to visit her in hospital in this one.
Exactly. Well, I think we can extrapolate this a bit further. Blessing Way, Frohickey turned up at Scully's apartment very drunk when Mulder's death was announced.
Mm.
I don't believe the lone gunmen didn't find out about that news report when it came through. They're the kind of people who have police scanners.
Yeah. It's particularly Frohickey because of the three lone gunmen, he's the most sensitive.
Yeah.
He's the most emotional, he's the most empathic of the three, because Byers is a robot and Langley is just your typical kind of nerd.
Yeah. So it feels, again, it kind of feels like a problem of there's no consensus in the writing team about how they operate. Given Morgan and Wong did One Breath, and I can't remember who did Blessing Way. I think Chris Carter was involved in Blessing Way at least. It's why are they so inconsistent like this? They are basically friends of both characters now. They should be turning up to these things. Like, Frohickey should be at the hospital at the end when Scully's cancer's gone into remission.
Yeah, he'd absolutely go and visit her.
Yeah. I can excuse Byers and Langley not showing up, but Frohickey should be there.
Yeah.
The really amazing thing about this, though, is when you get down to it, is Frohickey not being there isn't happening for good reason. Given Tom Braidwood is a director of photography on the show, he's on set anyway. You just have to put him into costume. He's already there. It's not like the other two have to be brought in specifically to cameo.
Yeah, true.
It's not any time Frohickey should show up and doesn't. I don't know what's going on over there. That's absurd. Why are you not doing this? I realise there are runtime limitations, but just put him in a group shot or something. Like when Skinner awkwardly walks into the Scully's bedside. It's not that hard to just have Frohickey just in the corner or something. I do kind of want the meeting, though, between Skinner and Scully after she goes to work. So, you accuse me of being a traitor again, Scully. That's the 5th time this year. So, Mulder... Okay. Is Mulder a bastard? Actually, no. Scratch that. Mulder is a bastard.
Yeah, we've already established that.
What is wrong with the man? Because at the end, Skinner comes to the hospital and Mulder's outside Scully's room. And they have a whole conversation where he says, oh, her cancer's gone into remission. You can go and say hello if you want. How are you not opening with this?
No, I think you're not even looking at the root of the problem there, is the fact that Scully's cancer remission, her cancer plotline has been building up over at least 10 or 12 episodes now, and we're told that it's gone into remission off screen.
That too, yes, that is also bad.
From a narrative standpoint, this is atrocious.
Well, I'd also raise you that Krishkal's son is a similar problem. Because we don't even see the kid.
Well, he's not a kid.
We don't even see the guy.
He's suffering from Gulf War syndrome, which infers the fact that he's an adult.
True, I just would call him a kid because he may as well be.
I thought the use of Krishkal's child is kind of interesting as well, in the fact that we've mentioned Gulf War syndrome several times over the course of this series, and for that to actually be a key component of the conspiracy, it's just something that's kind of brushed across here.
Yeah. As Krishkal's incentive for helping him, it's fine, but it's when there's not even a hospital scene or something.
But the fact it happens so quick kind of infers the fact that somebody has ended Krishkal's son as well.
Yeah.
The fact that somebody knows that Krishkal has been in contact with Mulder and divulging information he shouldn't be divulging, and then his son suddenly dies.
Yeah. It's not good. Speaking of Scully's cancer, though, you've got a doozy of her hospitalization.
I'm not sure it's a doozy, but
It's weird.
it's the first thing they say in this episode is she's been hospitalized due to hypovolemic shock. Hypovolemia is exactly as it sounds. Vol for volume, anemia for blood.
Yeah.
So it's a loss of blood. So Scully's nosebleed has caused a massive drop in her blood pressure. She's passed out. Hypovolemic shock only occurs if you've lost 20% of your blood, which in an adult person is about 2 litres. So how bad was this flipping nosebleed? It's even, I would give benefit of the doubt, hypovolemia often happens due to internal bleeding. But Scully's cancer's in her brain, so that would have been a huge bleed on the brain, which probably would have killed her.
Yeah.
So where the hell has all this blood gone? How bathed in blood is this kind of meeting room that they were all in when she passed out?
Actually, I've got an answer for this.
Oh, yeah?
Skinner is an unknown form of vampire, so basically as Scully falls over and he catches her, he's sucking all the blood up like Kane from Legacy of Kane.
That'd be even more distressing.
Yeah, but it explains why there's so little blood around.
But yeah, it seemed like she only has her typical X-Files 3 drips of blood on her thing and passes out. That's not hypovolemia.
No.
Yeah.
I do like how Mulder basically just stops any pretenses as soon as Scully's fainted. Because, aren't you dead wandering through this hospital demanding to just know where Scully is? It's like, I'm pretty sure in real life, if once you're declared dead, it's kind of difficult to come back from that because there's a whole lot of stuff that happens and not easy to reverse. But Mulder just keeps wandering through.
Like those cases where you see where people have done it for tax reasons.
Yeah, once people find out that this isn't true, you usually get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
In the odd exceptions, it's not like you've got amnesia.
But this leads to our scene with Bill Jr. as well, the X-Files' most slappable bit character.
Oh my god. It's like, and just his opposition to the chip is, at this point, you may as well take the crazy possibility. It can't hurt or anything.
But his whole argument, no, let her die with dignity. It's, Bill, can we try curing her?
Yeah. This might not work, but I'm going to take crazy possibility over everything else.
I think at this point, when you know that basically she's got weeks, months left,
yeah,
throw everything at it, to be honest.
Put this random chip, which you were right, the synopsis made very clear, this is not the one that was extracted originally.
No, it's a similar.
It is a similar chip.
Why that's kept in Scully's file is beyond me.
Yeah. One thing, and I would be very surprised if they do this, is Scully should be setting metal detectors off every time she goes through them now.
Like she used to.
Well, she only did it one time because she had to use the public entrance to the FBI.
Mm.
But every plane flight, she should be sent off the metal detectors now. In fact, she should have been sent off since...
You'd be that person. It's like people who get a pin in a bone or something like that, and this is their life now.
Constantly being extra steps. I mean, you expect some joke about Mulder's case. Would have been a sooner, but Scully got caught up in security again. Mulder, that chip is keeping me from dying. Yes, but it adds literal minutes to our journeys.
I know. I've got a friend who's got a bolt in her knee, and that's her superpower, is she's the one who always gets taken to one side at airports and things like that, because she sets up every flipping metal detector as she goes through it.
Which is never at all a big hunk of metal.
Mm.
I mean, it is amazing that the metal detectors detected that tiny chip back in the day, but I suppose we needed to find it somehow.
I'm not even sure if something like that would set off a metal detector, to be honest. It's
Something
not
that
a
small,
ferrous metal.
Yeah. Well, unless those chips are designed really weirdly. those human chips that removing them causes cancer.
True.
We're not going to get into this, are we? Is it me? Or is the point when Mulder accuses Blevins confused? I mean, for one thing, I'm going to go with Mulder has to have thought that being told to accuse Skinner was the reason why he accused Blevins. Because saying, I just guess, is absolutely terrible.
There's at least a dozen people in that room.
Yeah.
You know, you've got like maybe a 1 in 12 chance of hitting the right traitor, assuming the traitor's in the room.
Yeah. It's just, him saying that to Skinner just feels really poor. Like, he could have had a better reason for that. And, you know, being told to accuse Skinner, that's a pretty good one. But...
Well, it's not just being told that to accuse Skinner, it's we've got evidence against you, I can make that evidence go away. You're blatantly the villain.
Yeah, that's a villainous thing to do. So you could have told Skinner that, and that would have been perfectly fine. We would not have objected to it. You could actually cut that whole conversation out and just said, Scully's cancer's gone into remission. We should have this on screen, as you said. But no, what I'm getting at is, so Mulder's in this panel. He's sitting up late, which is a thing Mulder keeps doing, and doesn't get fired for that either. And goes on his big tirade speech and says, I won't answer the question because Blevins is the person I'm about to accuse.
Yeah.
So that happens. Then we cut to somewhere else. I can't remember quite how it goes. And we cut back, and Blevins has rushed into his office where the other agent is already there talking to someone on the phone. It's like, what happened to the panel? Did Blevins just run out the room? Did someone say, there's been a contempt of FBI or something? What happened there?
You're thinking of it in the lines of the anecdote about Arthur Conan Doyle, where he sent a message to 4 of his friends saying, they're onto us, we must flee, and then one of his friends vanished.
Yes, which is a hilarious idea.
But it's that sort of idea. It's like, I name you as the traitor.
Sure.
Gone.
But what did he do, though? Did he just run out of the meeting room or something, and then thereby make us look even more guilty? And we need to kind of talk about the other guy, because he's been there since the start. I don't think he's ever been named. He just kind of hangs around like Salacious Crumb. I'm doing it again.
He makes me think of Stephen King. I think it might just be the glasses.
He makes me think of Chris Carter, actually. I'm
yeah.
still not... I don't think it is his cameo, but he just makes me think of Chris Carter every time.
But yeah, even the Wikipedia article just called him something like the senior agent. I don't think he actually has a name. But evidently he's in on this conspiracy too.
Yeah, given he shot Blevins, and it's not clear if... Well, presumably he's actually more involved than Blevins, because given he was told to kill him. But it's like, this is another guy who should have been in more episodes than he was. I kind of... And there's the weirdness, because do you remember when you got the scene where Scully goes back into Blevins' office, and it's like Pilot all over again?
Yeah.
Except we've got Skinner doing the Cancer Man thing in the corner. And you look at the scene and you kind of say, Blevins, why is your office so much smaller than Skinner's?
Good point.
Because Skinner's the assistant director and you're section chief, Blevins. What happened there? So, I know you didn't see this episode when it came out, obviously.
No.
I'll go with my gut reaction at the time was, we didn't believe Cancer Man was dead for a second.
Well, if you never find the body.
There's the TV trope, obviously. And even Skinner saying, there's too much blood. And it's a case of, as long as we're not buying into there's no aliens, we know that the alien bounty hunter can totally get Cigarette Smoker Man out of this.
Yeah.
We don't know if he's around, but he's certainly, there's a plausible way of him surviving something that shouldn't be possible to survive.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't think we were convinced for a second he was actually dead. Because I think it's actually one of the views, I think, is that if you'd killed him off season 2, season 1, it might have had more of an impact. No, not season 1. He's not enough. It's season 2. If you got him off at the end of season 2, you might have believed it.
Yeah.
I think one thing I'd equate it to is American Gothic.
Okay.
It's like Sheriff Buck.
Yeah.
Spoilers for American Gothic, sorry. He dies at the end of season 1.
Yeah.
And then gets revived, obviously, because that's what American Gothic was doing. It was noted at the time that this was an absolute shock, given he was the antagonist of the entire season.
He's basically the main character.
Yeah. You can buy him dying at the end of a season 2, which never happened. Doing it at the start of season 1 is a complete shock, and that took everyone by surprise.
Well, this is why Game of Thrones was so shocking, is the fact that you have your big-name actor who's the main character for maybe the first 8 episodes and then he's killed,
Yeah.
is people didn't expect it. Unless they've read the book, of course. But
yeah. So it feels odd to do Cancer Man may have died. I don't know how seriously the audience is meant to take it as a possibility.
You know, it's just the Lex Luthor effect, though, of the whole, you can kill this person and he can be put in a situation where he can't possibly live, but you can never find the body.
I think that's more the Joker than Lex Luthor, isn't it?
Well, the Joker, yeah, it's definitely a DC villain sort of trope.
But I remember it was Death in the Family, the one where Robin dies. Originally, we go back to the 80s here, the first time they tried this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is, at the end of it, Joker's caught in an explosion, but Superman saying he couldn't possibly survive, and Batman is shouting, "Did you see the body? You have to see the body."
Yeah.
And he says, but they don't, because there never is. And it's because, they're not going to kill off a villain. Or not in a way they can't retcon back out again.
Not for a villain like the Cancer Man. I mean, Blevins being shot's fair enough.
Again, if he was in the series more, it might have actually more impact.
I've got to admit, if I'd been watching this sequentially, over 4 years now, I probably wouldn't even remembered who he was.
No, I mean, it was...
Bear in mind, this came out, before we had Wikipedia and stuff like that. IMDb to look up who this character was.
Yeah. Well, no, I do remember when Gethsemane came out, it was a big thing of, Mulder's committed suicide, Scully's taken before the very people who gave her the X-Files job in the first place.
Mm.
This was seen as kind of a big turning point in the whole thing, because we've come back to the start finally. Although now we've got Skinner doing the Smoky Man thing. Wouldn't it have been hilarious though if Smoky Man just wandered into Blevins' office and hung out in the corner still, and Scully's just got glaring at him the entire time?
I don't think it works anymore.
No, but it kind of wanted to. Now I would say that Redux 2 is a lot better than Redux 1.
It is.
I mean, for one thing, there's less voiceover.
Yeah, that's true. At least we don't get the voiceover in this one. You also get, as little as she's in the episode, some really nice heartfelt moments for Scully. The bit where she discusses her loss of faith with her mother is a really heartfelt, really, really good character scene for her, where we kind of see into Scully's head and we see how frightened she is.
Yeah. I mean, I do like that. Again, it's harking back to the whole why not try the chip thing. It's a case of, at this point, Scully's going to try everything. Praying to God, let's give it a shot. I used to believe this, let's try again.
It's interesting, though, as well. It's not just throwing stuff at the fan. It's the fact that Scully is so vulnerable and so close to death that she's open to this again. She'd kind of lost her faith over the course of the last few seasons, though after Miracle Man, I'm not sure how you could lose your faith.
Yeah.
But now she's kind of willing to kind of cling back to this as well. Like her mom said, her kind of faith has never been totally gone. She's just been in this kind of headspace.
That's true. More Scully scenes. It's a bit too Mulder focused again, isn't it?
Yeah, especially, it annoys me, it's tying into the whole fact that Scully's remission is told to us by Mulder and we don't see anything about Scully getting this. But it's the fact that this is such a personal plot for Scully, which is a bit like what I said back when we reviewed Demons, is the fact that by giving Mulder a health crisis plot, you're kind of taking away from Scully's massive health crisis plot. In this one, we have got Scully's kind of health crisis plot coming to its end. But the episode's not about her at all.
No.
She's like the B-plot in the background, while we're focusing on Mulder's not quite recruitment into the syndicate, and then him taking down a mole in the FBI.
Yeah. Going back to that, the reveal that is Blevins is really unsatisfying, given it's... So your list of people who knew about Mulder, the X-Files, and Scully from the start is Blevins, the other agent, and Cancer Man. Skinner enters into proceedings at the point of Tombs. There shouldn't have been a lot of debate about who the mole was if they've been watching you for 4 years, Mulder. Also, I think, Mulder, though, you can be assured you weren't being spied on for 4 years, because I think you'd have noticed that camera when you tore your apartment apart in EBE.
True.
You also think that Deep Throat and X might have said, there's a man watching you from upstairs, right?
I think you've just made an interesting point here.
Yeah?
It's the fact that even you can't focus on Scully's plot.
That's true.
Because we start discussing it and you turn it back to Mulder, which shows how little it kind of...
Yeah, you got me. You got me.
Yeah, it shows how that's not the thing that impresses on you in this episode.
I know. But I think you are right though. But I think also there's not many scenes, is there?
No,
We really don't have much.
It should be really, really Scully orientated, like the likes of Memento Mori, which is excellent.
Yes.
As I said last week,
that did split between the two of them quite well.
Yep. And it never detracted from the kind of seriousness of Scully's plot.
Well, yes, and also everything Mulder was doing was towards getting answers for Scully.
But even in the bits we see of Scully, we don't really see what she's undergoing. You have, like, a doctor telling her he's about to start treatment. You have the conversation with her mum and a brief glimpse of the bit where the priest comes in to kind of read the sacrament with her and things like that. Which presumably is her first, essentially, church visit for a while.
Yeah.
But these are all things that we kind of skim over and just kind of forget under the weight of Mulder's plot.
Yes. Another interesting point to be made there, then, is that unlike a lot of the conspiracy arcs so far, this one is entirely Chris Carter. He's written all of this, and alone.
Oh, he's the only writer, is he?
He's the only writer on all three, which is interesting, given the highs and lows of it. Is it all attributable to him for a change?
It's kind of interesting when you see how people took Redux 1 and 2. The negativeness is more on 1 than it is 2, admittedly. But it's the whole, if you look at the opinions of a lot of the cast and crew, Redux numbers amongst their favourite episodes. If you look at the critical and fan response at the time, they're kind of average to negative reviews of these ones. They're not considered the best episodes at all.
Yeah. I mean, I do remember at the time this didn't feel like a bold new direction. This felt like treading water. As you said, the film, by this point we knew the film was in the works. And for an X-Files film that we're building towards, we're going to have to do something with the conspiracy, and it's going to have to be big and flashy. Yeah. There's no way we're getting a film based on all the aliens were lies.
Yeah.
That ain't happening. So this very much felt like, and I think one review actually did make the point of, this is basically a stall so we can get everything into place in this season so the film will pick up properly. It's that problem of, we know where our destination is, we aren't quite sure we're going to get there, but we've got to get there at this exact timing, and we're going to keep fiddling and sort of being very gingerly at how we advance till we get till we can get the dominoes into the row. Poor Scully. Well, unfortunately, we know next week she's not going to get anything to do at all.
No.
Well, no, for the first half. She'll get Detour.
In Detour she does, yeah.
Unusual Suspects she might. But before we get to that, do we have anything else for this episode?
No, I think we've covered everything quite nicely for this one.
Yeah, it's interesting you said about the sort of crew finding it one of their favourites and fan reaction being quite middling.
Lukewarm at best.
Yeah. Again, I remember it being a treading water kind of affair, and I knew people were not kind to Redux.
I've said it before, I struggle to remember the names of the conspiracy arcs, but I know my favourite ones. This isn't Colony, it's not Tunguska, it's not Piper Maru.
No.
It's not one of the more memorable parts of this conspiracy.
Yeah. I suppose that's actually an interesting point, because my complaint for a while has been, part 1 gives you too much information, part 2 claws back a good chunk of it, but not quite all of it. This one says, hey, everything you thought you knew is lies. And there's a single hint that those lies are also lies.
I will give it credit where credit's due is, my critique is that anything longer than a one-parter shouldn't be longer than a one-parter. But these 3 do flow well.
They do.
There was no point where I thought, yeah, this is really dragging, we've pulled this out too far. The 3 episodes combined are probably the best paced of the conspiracy we've seen so far. It's just not satisfying.
I would mostly agree with you, though I do think if you strip the voiceover out of Redux, you could actually have merged Redux 1 and 2 into one episode and not lost
It's not
anything.
that much.
It's not that much. I'm sure I will find an excuse to go back to it, but the defining moment of this arc for me now, though, is Samantha's absolutely bizarre appearance, because I do not understand what's going on anymore.
Yeah, it is jarring, and it'll be curious to see if they do anything more with that.
Samantha, why were you abducted? Quick! What were you told?
In honesty, I can't remember if they do anything more with this, so it will be interesting to see.
But yeah, I mean, it just shoots holes in my preferred thing of Paper Heart should be in season 5. Nope, because Mulder thinks his sister's alive and well, and that just negates the entire point of Paper Hearts.
Maybe it should have been earlier.
It should have been season 1. I think I know the problem is Vince Gilligan wasn't on the writing staff at that point in time. And
it's a shame. I think Paper Hearts is one of the best episodes that we've seen so far. It is a really good one.
It just doesn't belong where it fell. It's too late to be pulling that kind of thing. So it's been a while, and I'm unsure how you're going to do this one. Because we're going to have... Well, no, to be fair, we've learned a lot about the conspiracy. It's not exactly connected to the bit of conspiracy you talked about before. So, join us for the first time in season 5, and first time since the Tunguska?
Probably, yeah.
Probably, yeah. So we go to Kim's Conspiracy Corner.
Okay, over this 3-parter, because I'm counting Gethsemane in there as well, we have basically flipped the entire conspiracy on its head. We have learnt, if Krishkow is correct, that there is no aliens, there is no conspiracy in the way we think there is. Basically, everything that's been fed to Mulder has been a very, very elaborate hoax. This is entirely because the US is trying to deflect attention away from military warfare, therefore it's feeding into this kind of belief in abductions and aliens, because it's hiding the more insidious things they're doing. This is kind of hiding the fact that they are increasingly spending money on these kind of weapons and means of warfare, including germ warfare, which it turns out that that's what all the abductees are. These are men and women who have been kidnapped against their will under the pretense of an alien abduction, just so the government can test these chemical weapons on them. Essentially, Mulder has been allowed to see what they want him to see, right up to and including the dead alien that's found in the ice in Gethsemane. Again, just an elaborate plant, which was always designed to be snatched from Mulder just before he could verify its accuracy, but show him enough that he'd believe it to be true. This belief, however, is somewhat flipped on its head, although it does convince Mulder, essentially shatters his belief and makes him believe that aliens are in fact a lie. It's flipped on its head by the cancer man, who kind of infers that what Krishkow has fed him are very beautiful lies. So we don't know now what the actual truth is what's come from this. However, Cancer Man has kind of inferred the fact that, although maybe everything might not be as Mulder once believed, there is certainly some truth in what he previously believed, and certainly from what we've seen as an audience, it's quite clear that aliens are involved to some degree. We've now just got to question exactly what that is.
Thank you. I'd say, if certainly nothing else, the audience is not going to let go of the black oil anytime soon. We can explain the shapeshifters, even though no one intended that to happen.
I think, and we've been saying for a while, the whole thing where it's clear that Scully was abducted by people. You know, fans largely agree with this. We had this debate back in Ascension.
Yeah.
But it is clear that there is some alien involvement. I mean, the bounty hunter.
Yeah.
We know, as much as we were joking around last week, that is not an Eddie Blunt.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, unless it's a relative who can heal people with his touch.
Yeah. We know that there are aliens in this conspiracy somehow. Unfortunately, it's in the balance, like, what it's going to take to get Mulder to believe that again.
Very true. I did actually realise another good one for what the audience sees that isn't going to be that explicable is Nisai, the alien autopsy at the start. You can't see on the videotape, but the audience is shown the body before they zip it into the body bag.
True. But at the same time, this could be one of these elaborate fake chimeras.
True, although given these were the Japanese scientists who were the people doing the implants to give Scully her cancer.
I'd say you've possibly got this for an argument for Tunguska as well, is the fact that their argument that this is an elaborate thing done by the US government, when we've seen Japan and Russia doing things,
Yeah,
why would that be part of it?
We know the syndicate is international, but you are getting into a very weird... So the military-industrial complex, from top to bottom, is wired into every economy, and you're just shouting at each other for publicity.
Yeah, essentially. That would kind of infer that both sides are kind of elaborately fabricating the Cold War, for example.
Yeah, and at some point you have to say, guys, have you considered world peace, given that you're already talking to each other anyway? We can not do the military thing.
True.
But that kind of thing is unfathomable, of course. We'll watch how Conspiracy Corner develops from here. Next week, we get The Unusual Suspects and Detour.
Yeah.
Unusual Suspects done because David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson were busy filming something. Something significant. And Detour being like the first genuine episode of the season.
Well, the first, like, Monster of the Week of the season.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of Unusual Suspects we're going to get into. I have to watch it. We have to get to that next week. But
yeah,
it's good.
Looking forward to them.
Yes. Favorite that one. In the meantime, if you'd like to get hold of us, our email address is thingsargettingstrange42@gmail.com.
Alternatively, you can find us on social media. We're on Twitter and Tumblr at GetStrange42. We're on Mastodon at GetStrange42@universadon.com. Or on Facebook, you can find us under Things Are Getting Strange, an X-Files Rewatch podcast. Again, if you're not sick of hearing my voice by now, I also have a Twitch stream where I just stream whatever I'm currently playing on the PlayStation 5, which is currently One Piece Odyssey. You can find me on Twitch TV under the username Dire Not Dire. That's DYRE, not DIRE. I stream on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Mondays and Wednesdays is at 8 PM BST. Saturdays is 5 PM BST. I also now have a YouTube channel where I've been uploading the old streams. By the time that this is done, my Mortal Shell Let's Play should be on there. Again, it's under the name Dire Not Dire. Be aware the Mortal Shell ones are slightly lower quality. I did get a better microphone before I started the One Piece ones.
We have a Patreon, patreon.com/thingsargettingstrange, where we will get round to very shortly, given we've actually got a clearer schedule now, doing a Let's Play of the first Exiles game, to be followed up with the books, the comics, the trading cards, maybe any board games we can get hold of, deck builders, the other video game, the young adult novels. Basically, any other X-Files thing that doesn't constitute a TV episode or a film or something.
Be aware there are 3 tiers to our Patreon at varying prices. If you subscribe on any tier, you will have access to the special episodes and the Let's Plays.
Please do. And if you want to, if you can give us a review somewhere, iTunes or wherever else you find your podcast, that would be great too. I don't think we've been asking for reviews, but let's ask for reviews.
Yeah, good plan.
Yeah. Say nice things about us, please, if you like us.
Of course, there's no pressure if you don't like us.
And no pressure if you do like us as well. It'd just be lovely. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, please remember,
all lives lead to the truth.